Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Friends of Feadies podcast. I'm absolutely thrilled for today's episode because we are about to spice things up with an incredible journey through the agri-food industry. Get ready for a hot and spicy ride. I'm your host, Mobina, and I can't wait to dive into the world of branding and packaging with our special guest. Now, let me tell you, this founder is a true dynamo, and her achievements are sizzling hot. What's even more impressive is that she's managed to achieve all of this without hiring a single employee. Can you believe it? It's mind-blowing. And here's the kicker. She started all of this without a business background. I'm sure many of you have already had the pleasure of tasting Pueblo Chili's delicious hot sauce. It's a small batch of pure tastiness that goes with everything. Whether you are into ramen or tacos, this sauce is the perfect companion. So let's not keep you waiting any longer. Join me in giving a warm and fiery welcome to Raquel, the fabulous founder of Pueblo Chili. Raquel, it's fantastic to have you here. How are you doing today?
Hi, Mobina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing super well. I'm really excited to be on this podcast today.
Thank you for joining us. So let's just begin. Can you please share the story behind the creation of the Pueblo's Chili brand? What inspired you to enter the hot sauce industry, and how did you develop the concept and identity for your brand?
It's actually a little funny how I got started with Pueblo. So I'm a graphic designer, and when I was at design school in Vancouver, in one of my classes, we had to conceptualize a company and work on the branding and advertising from start to finish over the course of the whole semester. So the company I chose to create was a hot sauce company. And while I'm not using the same brand that I created then, it is a very similar concept. And after I graduated design school, I moved to Regina for work. And it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to start a hot sauce company. I just really, really loved the concept and the idea. It took me about 4 years after moving, but in 2018, I finally took the leap and started my own hot sauce recipes and learning all about the production process and different techniques. And then I eventually built a brand that reflected the fun, unique, and interesting flavor combinations that I was developing. I love simplicity with lots of color for branding, while always remaining cohesive in the color palette, and I feel like Pueblo really reflects that.
Great. It's very interesting and inspiring story. I know you have a background in art and design, so you're probably very good with branding. And you know, branding is crucial for creating a strong identity. So here I have two questions. First is how did you go about establishing Pueblo's Chili brand voice and personality?
So for Pueblo's brand voice, I really focus on casual, lightheartedness and fun, and I always like to sprinkle in part of my culture as well. So you'll find Spanish words and phrases in the mix too. Mm-hmm. And hot sauce is really trendy right now thanks to the YouTube show Hot Ones, and it's made hot sauce lovers out of tons of people. So I just really like to speak to all those hot sauce lovers out there.
Great. You exactly resonated your brand with your audience, right?
Yes, absolutely. So most of my demographic is in the 25 to 40-year-old range. And actually, most of my demo is women. Mm-hmm. And as a woman in that age range myself, it really allows me to test out the different brand concepts with my friends, my peers, and my customers on a pretty regular basis to see what resonates.
Yeah, that's amazing. I read your website and about your story. I know you are a very good storyteller, and you know better than me that storytelling is often intertwined with branding. So how did you incorporate the storytelling into the Pueblo Chili brand, and how did you create a deeper connection with your customers? Is there a secret there?
So whenever I have the opportunity, I always like to tell the story behind why I came up with the Pueblo brand and how my upbringing has really made me into the cook and the founder that I am today. Mm-hmm. So Pueblo was named after a song that was made popular in Chile in the 1970s called El Pueblo Unido Jamás Será Vencido. And that translates to the people united will never be defeated. So before I went to design school, I got a bachelor's degree in political studies from the University of Saskatchewan. And my area of focus was mostly on democracy and development in Latin America and in Africa. And my dad, Claudio, he was a political refugee and a victim of the Pinochet dictatorship in Chile in 1973. And he came to Canada in the 1970s after he was exiled out of Chile to Argentina after spending time in a concentration camp in Chile. And then eventually Canada accepted him as a refugee. And his experience has absolutely shaped who I am today. And I loudly and proudly speak on him and what he went through whenever I had the opportunity. And his experience and that of like my whole family's really has become a major pillar of my brand. And I think that when you share those personal stories with your customers, it allows them to feel more connected to your brand and really helps them to see that there's a human behind that little bottle of hot sauce that they see in their fridge every day. And it's someone who's passionate and direct about their why and their brand's purpose.
Yeah, that's true. So having a very supporting family is also very important. And you just told us about your dad, and I read about your mom on the website as well. So can you discuss the role she plays and how her expertise as a home chef contributed to overall brand?
Yes, absolutely. So when I first started Pueblo, I would go visit my parents in my hometown of Swift Current and get them both actually to help me test out these wild recipes that I just had in my head to see what would work for hot sauce. So my dad would be outside in the -30 on the charcoal smoker, cooking up peaches and jalapenos for me, while my mom and we would be inside bouncing ideas off of each other and blending, cooking, and bottling my creations. And when I was a kid, I always really admired watching my mom in the kitchen. I rarely helped, but I always watched. She was a little bit of a control freak in the kitchen, and that's exactly the way I am now too. And so at the end, I always got to eat these delicious meals that she was making with ingredients that most people, especially in that time, would be intimidated to cook with. She was just always experimenting and trying new things and being inspired by different cultures from all over the world, which meant that my siblings and I really got to become global eaters from our own home in small town Saskatchewan. We were also super fortunate to grow up in a home where eating as a family was made a top priority of the household. And there was rarely a day that we would miss sitting down to eat at the table together, to talk about our days and build a deep connection with one another. In between the hustle and bustle of all of our sports and music and cultural activities that we did for extracurricular. So having those daily moments with my family really helps to build my love for food 100%. And my mom just showed us on a daily basis how food connects people through all those shared experiences. So in the earlier days of Pueblo too, my mom was by my side in the commercial kitchen and all my production days, helping me to make hundreds of bottles a day. I do it all on my own now, but she's always just a FaceTime away anytime I have a new crazy idea and I want to bounce some ideas off of someone.
Yeah, interesting. So from what you said, I can see that you really intertwine your culture into your brand, and I see it everywhere on social media, on your website. By the way, what is your social media ID? Instagram, yeah.
On Instagram, it is at pueblochili.co.
Oh, great. And I know you have a great digital presence and you're doing great on Instagram. So how have you leveraged the digital platforms to tell your brand's story and engage with your audience? And do you have a strategy? Because you're successful, you're doing great.
Oh, thank you so much. So my brand story is front and center on my website. I always make sure of that. But I also use social media, like Instagram and Facebook, of course. And I'm really trying hard to get more into TikTok content. It's a learning curve, but I'm trying really hard. Yeah. So I like to engage with my audience in ways like that. On Instagram, I like to post a lot of stories and do polls. have a little chit chat. And while I'm not the most active across all my platforms when I'm in my busier summer season, I always like to keep my customers up to date through my stories. And I've tested out a lot of paid ads as well. And Facebook and Instagram ads have definitely brought me more customers and sales than Google ads have. And I think that's largely to do with the visuals. You eat with your eyes, so seeing a beautifully curated photo on an ad tells the story more dynamically than Google ads do for my particular product, at least.
That's very true. And you don't have a marketing agency do all of this for you, right?
No, I don't. I do it all myself.
How do you manage everything alone? Tell us a little bit about that.
I do, I feel like I maybe don't do the best job of managing it all the time. But when I keep myself organized and I'm using different apps to have my to-do lists and figuring out how my week is going to be structured, then that helps a lot. I just need to stay on top of being organized and writing lists.
Okay, so what are the top 3 apps that you suggest all founders to use?
Monday. I think Monday is a great one to keep organized.
Yeah.
My notes app is always just completely full on my iPhone. So Monday, the notes app, and then Google Calendar.
Okay. Those are your 3 top favorites, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, great. So let's change the topic to packaging and design. And I'm sure that's one of your expertise, which plays a significant role in attracting customers and stand out on the shelves. You did the designing of your packaging yourself, right?
Yes, I did.
Great. So what was the process of the designing the packaging for the Pueblo Chilies? Did you do research, ask your customers? How did you do that?
Yes, absolutely. I did all of that. And so there are a lot of hot sauce brands in the industry that use kind of crude names for their sauces, and they use a lot of flames and skulls and different scary imagery. And don't get me wrong, there's like a place in the industry for that, and it's actually a really large place in the industry where like those are all very successful brands. But I knew that I wanted to set myself apart from those brands and become one where the branding and the packaging stand out on the shelf in a different way and appeal to a different demographic, but while like not alienating myself from the demographic that is attracted to those brands either. So I'm working really hard to have a brand that kind of appeals to everyone. And so designing the packaging really came quite organically to me because I knew I didn't want to shy away from color, but I wanted to keep the brand really simple as well. So as a graphic designer, I'm constantly browsing online, through magazines, and on social media at different design trends and branding that I like. And I'm always saving photos, taking screenshots, and creating albums and mood boards of all the branding that I really admire and that I'm inspired by. So because I'm constantly surrounding myself with inspiration, my brand came together for me really quickly, actually. And I'm researching 24/7. I'm always on my phone or watching something on TV or a movie where I'm just getting inspired by the visuals. So with branding and packaging, market research is so important, and you need to know what else is out there to know how you can differentiate yourself from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds great. You mentioned a good point, market research. But how did you start with your market research? What was the first step you took before everything for the Pueblo Chili?
The first thing I did was I looked at all things local first. Mm-hmm. So when I'm starting a branding project, I like to do what's called an industry analysis. And the way that I personally do an industry analysis is I look at my local competitors, and then I look at competitors across Canada, and then more global competitors, and then parallel industries too. So something that's maybe not hot sauce related, but people who like hot sauce are also into something in this industry as well. So I like to look at all of those things, and I just research for hours on the internet, and I save tons of images, and I just look at everything there is to look at on the internet for those.
Yeah, that sounds exactly right. Best market research. So last but not least, if you had the chance to start your business over again, what would you do differently? Are there any specific mistakes or challenges that you faced along the way that you would avoid or handle differently?
Honestly, I would have become a farmer's market vendor earlier. This year, I became a full-time member of the Regina Farmers Market, and I didn't realize how beneficial that is for brand building. To have those face-to-face interactions with my customers is so important, and I wish I would have done this earlier in my business. My main focus has always been to get into retail locations, and I'm in over 40 stores across the province right now. But farmers markets and meeting my customers in real life and being able to tell my story and explain about each hot sauce and what ingredients I use and my philosophy behind the flavors, that has helped me grow my business exponentially in the past just 6 months. And then those people, they go into the stores and they see Pueblo there too. So it has helped grow my retail sales a lot as well. And I think just having those face-to-face interactions is the best thing that you can do for your business, especially at the start when people don't necessarily know who you are. And it helps you to not have to work so hard on trying to get sales online or anything. Just being able to be out there in the markets and on the ground. So there's so much to be said for word of mouth. And I really think that is the best form of advertising.
Yeah, definitely. Great. So I have no more question for you. And so do you want to add anything, any advice to our audience?
Yeah, I would say to just have fun with what you're doing. And if you're passionate about it and you speak about your brand and your product passionately, then other people will be passionate about it too. People feed off of each other. And if you're excited about what you're selling, then people will be excited to try it.
Great, Raquel. Thank you so much. Great advice. Where people can get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me either on my website, which is pueblochili.co, or on my Instagram, which is the same pueblochili.co as well. And I'm always open to answering questions on DMs or by email. So never be afraid to get in touch with me.